Hey everyone, it's Cheryl from Tinker's Cart Art, and I'm popping in today to show you some one-stroke flowers. They're really, really fun to paint. They're pretty easy with practice, so I'm going to show you some brush strokes, and I'm going to show you how to put them together to make these flowers. And it's something that you can practice on your own and then have fun with the florals. So anyways, let me get you a closer view so you can see what I'm going to be doing here. And I'm going to paint some on the black. I love it on the black background. I have some white paper here we'll play around with. Very basic palette, depending on what color flowers you really want to paint. I'm going to use some yellow roses, so I'll use some gold and white. Some pink roses, we'll use the red and the white. For the leaves, I have some green and yellow I'm going to mix up. And depending on what color flowers, if you want to do blue or peach, you just need two colors. You need the color you want your flower to be, and then a white for the highlights. And then leaves you can do in different shades of green as well. But we're going to do this shade here. And all you need is one brush, really. A flat. This is a 12. And you can use a smaller brush if you'd like. If you want smaller flowers. I like this brush. It has a nice long bristle, so it holds a lot of paint, which is nice. And remember, with these flat brushes, you get a nice wide stroke, but on the chisel edge, you get some nice little thin lines like these little veins here as well. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to show you loading your brush. I'm going to get a clean piece of paper here. We'll just practice some brush strokes first, get some ideas of the pressure that you need and how to load your brush. I'm going to simply load my brush with the gold paint. I'm using a gold rather than the yellow because the yellow is really transparent. And on its own, it's going to be very see-through. The gold has a little white in it, so it's a little more opaque, and that really helps with showing up, especially on the black paper. I've loaded my brush with the gold. I'm just taking the very corner, and I'm just taking a little bit of white on my corner. I always pat it out a little bit to blend it. And that's when I start my florals. So to start with, why don't you start with practicing just some straight brush strokes, loading your brush, and adding that little bit of white on the edge. I can maybe get a couple petals out of each stroke, and then I reload. So I go back into my gold again, back into a little tip of the corner in white, and I am just blending it. Can you see when you make your stroke, you get a nice light edge there? Can see a little bit there. So I would practice first just with your two colors. Get your brush loaded with your main color, a little bit on the corner, and just practice some of those brush strokes. You can see you get a few strokes and you still have that white showing. When it starts to all run together, that's when you want to grab a little more white, pat it out, blend it a little bit on your palette first. Practice with some straight strokes first. When you get the hang of that, and fill up sheets of paper. The more practice, the better, and the easier these little flowers are going to come for you. And let me just make this even a little bigger for you. Let's see. There. I think that will work. I just wanted to get you a little closer, but I'll hold it up if I need to too. So you got your little straight strokes. You can do some curvy strokes. When you'll get a feel for when you need to add a little bit of that white back in. It's fun to practice with all different colors too. So a little bit of white. Then you can start C-strokes. I'm losing my white there, so I'm just going back and getting some more of that gold, back into the white again, and getting my little, so you can really see the white on the edge. And you can see how that's going to turn into some nice petal shapes. Let's move this around, and I'll show you how I start. I'll do a quick little rose for you so you can see how fun it is when you put them all together. You can do some really complicated roses, or you can do just little buds. So I've done the same thing, what we've been doing with our practice. A little gold, and then a little bit of white on the edge. So when I'm doing a rose, I start like this. I make a little bit of a wiggle, make a petal, make another petal. I want to keep reloading. Those are taking quite a bit of the paint off my brush. I want a nice crisp white edge when I am finished. So what I do is I do petals all around. And now we'll make the little bowl in the middle that forms the rose and some little petals tucked in. Although you can get an idea of how you can make just regular flowers like that too, which we'll make some of those after. But let's finish our rose. We'll get our gold again, a little bit of white. Now I'm going to make that little bowl that's in the center of a rose. So I've got a little petal like that. And then I'm going to make the little front of the cup. So can you see that there? And now we just tuck some petals around. You know how the petals kind of wrap around the center of the rose, and depending on how tightly it is, or if it's opened up fully, so you can make all sorts of types of roses in different stages. So just take some photos of your roses or Google some images of roses, and you can really get some nice ideas of really full-blown roses, little tight buds. Continuing now, so we've got our petals around the edge, we've got that little cup in the middle. Now I'm taking my brush and I'm almost starting a little more on the chisel edge, and I'm just kind of pressing and pulling, and I've got a little petal there. I'm going to do the stroke over here so you can see it, because now we aren't just using the brush flat out like we were. We are starting on the chisel edge almost, pressing and wiggling, and then lifting the brush up, and you get a nice thin little petal there. It's all a matter of controlling the brush too. So when you're practicing your little strokes, even if you're going to practice with one color just to get the hang of the flat brush, you can see you can make nice flat wide lines. You can get nice thin lines with your chisel, but you can also start chisel edge, press, chisel edge, and that's just a blob, but it's a good way to practice. You can start thin, press, wiggle if you want to, and press again. So play with all these little strokes with just the flat brush. Something like this that I just did could almost be like the little tip of a grass. You know, if you're doing grasses and you want to press a little bit and then get thinner, it could be a bud. You can get all kinds of fun shapes. Play around with this brush as much as you can. The more control you have over it, the better off you'll be when you're painting. Okay, so back to our little rose. We've got a little petal on the side here. And now we are going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm starting a little flatter, and I'm getting into my chisel edge just like that. These last little guys could just almost be a press and just wrapping them in. I'm just getting a little bit of white on my brush. Now I have plenty of the yellow. And there you have it. You have a little rose. I know the light's a little bright. I'm trying to get it so that you can see it. So it could be a full-blown rose like that. It could be, sometimes I start with just a few little wiggles. I'm using the brush flat. I've got my paint. I've got a little white. And I'm just making 3 little petals there. Now I'm going to go and make that little cup a little bigger right here. More white. And then I add a few petals in with that little chisel pull method. Chisel edge here, press a little, pull it in. Chisel edge here, press, pull it in. That could be finished right there. You could add a few more in if you wanted. Little buds are simple. Look at, you just press and pull. So you've got your gold, little white, press and pull. Some more practice strokes to practice, because that is going to make a leaf later. But right now it's a little bud. You can make little buds that are just open a little bit by just making that little cup shape. So you've just got your white on the top, a little circle, a little C stroke, and then you can go underneath and you've got a little bud. Make them tinier, make them more closed on the bottom if you want. You can just do that little C stroke. And then just make it a little thinner down here, and then we'll put leaves around it, a little rest of the flower. So you can see now, practice, practice, practice. Practice with your chisel edge, practice with chisel, pull, chisel, chisel, pull, chisel, pull. You can make some fun borders like that if you wanted on something. It's like a little cake decorating with the frosting, isn't it? So there are some yellow roses. Let's play around with some. Let's play around with some red ones too. We'll do it on the black and we'll do it on the white. Let me just take this off. You can save that, and what I'll do is I'll take a picture of it, and you can have it as a little practice sheet. And thank you guys for joining me tonight. if you have any questions at all, just throw them in the comments and I will answer those for you. If you have anything you want to chat about, certainly send me a message even. I'm always around and I can certainly answer them for you. And also, if you want, there's my texting, my phone number down there. You can text me, get on my list so you know when I go live. And when I'm doing little tutorials or paintings, I will send you a text and just let you know, hey, heads up, I'm going live. All my lives are always recorded. So remember, don't worry if you miss them because they will be recorded on the page here. So no worries. The red is fun because they really will pop. And I'm going to do some on the white. Of course, our little white edges won't show quite as much, but you can imagine how nice the roses would look on a background of green leaves or a bouquet. These you can throw in any little floral bouquet. I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm taking the red paint. I'm loading my brush up pretty well. Taking a little white just on the corner. And I'm always going to blend it a little bit first. And back to our roses. I'm going to do one first. It's got all those little petals all around it. And every now and then when you need to, feel free to add more white to the edge or reload the whole brush altogether. I can feel my paint's getting a little thin there, so I'll go back and load my red, another little bit of white. Now I've got my rose petals right around there. And a little bit white, and I'm going to put that little cup in the middle. I'm going to paint a really big one next so you can really see what I'm doing. I finish that little cup off by adding the front, and then the little petals that are going to just tuck in around. Here's where I'm taking that brush from chisel to flat, sometimes just chisel. Let's do a really big one so you can really see what I'm doing. Get some good amount of red paint on there, get our little white edge, and do a big petal. A big petal. I didn't pat that one off and blend it on my palette, and can you see what happened? Got a lot of white in there, just not on the very edge. I'm giving it, because these petals are big here, I'm giving it a lot of pressure. I'll show you where. I'm going to start. I'm starting really on my chisel. I'm really pressing down so I can get all of that red filled out in the middle there. This is something that will come to you when you're practicing. You'll get all that. And press. And I just realized I'm not wearing my glasses. No wonder I'm having trouble seeing. If your brush does get a little too pink, you've lost your red from your little bit of white, just wipe it off on your paper towel and start with the red paint again and your little bit of white and just blend a tiny bit. We're going to get that little center in. It's just going to be a little C shape for the back of the little cup. And now for the front, just the opposite. Reload. It is tedious reloading often, but you get into the swing of it and it's pretty easy. And these are the little petals we're just going to tuck in. I make them a little different every time. You can just make them any way you like. You can make as many as you like. And there you've got a little rose. And then again, the little buds, just pressing and twisting the brush and pulling it. Just press flat, twist, and pull. You can get little leaf shapes when we do them in green, and these will be like little buds. And sometimes I like to do just a little rose that's just open a tiny bit. And that's that. And I'll show you how I finish those off when we do leaves. So they're really kind of fun. I'm going to show you that other little flower since we have the color on our brush. I do them if you do the roses, you can do these in your sleep. They're easy peasy. White on the edge. And just like we made our petals to start with there, I'm doing the same thing. I'm making a petal, but see how I'm bringing it in more to the center. I don't have a little bit of empty space there. Red, a little bit of the white on the edge. I'm finishing it off. I'm almost starting, pressing, and pulling it right in. Because I want these to be petals, and I want them to sort of be closed and have a little center. I don't want too much black from the background showing up. And that's going to be our flower. Once we put a center, I throw little dots in there, and it just makes a little flower. I'm going to make a few in the yellow, and I'm going to show you, you can make some little teeny tiny ones too if you just take a smaller brush. if you were doing a big floral and you want just some little flowers peeking out on the edges, same thing, a flat brush, but it's just tiny. And I do the same exact thing, just with the smaller brush. A little bit of white on the tip, pat it off, and you can make just little flowers, which can just be peeking from behind, or they could be finished and be a whole little flower. But say I'm doing a big flower like that, you can take a smaller brush and take some white, and you can make some little ones peeking out from the side. And can you see the difference? You got a lot of dimension when you have that light on the edge. It's not just flat. If you were just going to paint your flower flat, well, that's not the best brush. Let's try the big one. Put some more red paint right here. You know, you could do this. You get the same strokes. But look at how flat it is. Just a little bit of white on the edges, and it gives you so much dimension. Now there's a couple of ways to do the centers of these flowers. Sometimes, depending on the color of them, I will do them just like a dark brown. If you want a yellow center, which would look nice with these pink flowers, you need to paint your center first with white. The paint, the yellow paint is so transparent. If you went and tried to do a center, you wouldn't even see it. It would just looks a little greenish. It's very transparent. Paint all your centers with white when your red is dry, of course. Paint them with white, and then when they dry, pop on your yellow, and it'll be nice and bright for you. All right, so let's work on a few leaves. Leaves are fun, and it's the same exact little stroke that you were doing for those little buds here. You can use any shade of green you want. What you want is a shade of green that you want your leaves to be, and a darker shade, and then white. So I am going to use that phthalo, that dark blue-green for my dark, and I'm going to just mix up a lighter yellow. I mean a yellow, sorry, lighter green. Lighter green. Oh, we didn't do any on here yet, so we're going to practice those strokes again. I really want you to see me do them, and we'll do some flowers down here. But let me show you some leaves first. So I've got a lighter green here. I'm just mixing that dark green with some yellow, and I'm getting a lighter green. And I've got my dark green, and I've got some white. So when we loaded our brush before with one color and a little white on the tip, now we're going to do that, but we're going to add dark on the other side of the brush. So I've got my brush just loaded with the green, the middle shade of green, tiny little touch of that dark green on my corner, and a tiny touch of white on the other corner. Pat it out a little bit, and look at, you've got 3 shades right there. And these same strokes we did, press and pull, will turn right into a leaf. Let me try it on the white. It will show up a little better. And you do have to reload after every couple leaves. A little bit of white in the corner, a little bit of dark, and just press and twist. Press and twist. I'm trying to make them a little bigger so you can see them really well. Really, you can, as much pressure as you can put, as wide as you're going to get it. You can wiggle it, and then you can twist and pull it right up. With this same brush, you can even go in and put your stems in, because you've got that nice chisel edge. You can make them teeny, even with the big brush, or you can move to that little tiny square and do it as well. All right, so let's just practice some more so you can see how those shapes come together in a little different shape for your leaves. So same old middle shade of green, a little bit of dark, a little bit of light, just pat it out a little bit. You could get, I'm going to press nice long grasses that way. You could press and almost twist. Just practice, practice, practice. And then when you go to do your florals, you'd be surprised how your brain remembers the exercise, and it comes really natural to you. I sometimes put little bouquet, little groupings like this, so 2 or 3. It's kind of nice to see them actually with the flowers. When this dries, I'll put a little center on that too. But I just always put some leaves peeking out. You can do a few. You can do, as many as you want. And again, you could go back if you want to, just even with the white, and do your little veins. These little guys, let me show you how I do the little buds and the little opened buds. I take the same idea with a little brush. Put my green, take a tiny bit of dark green, tiny bit of white. And for these guys, I sort of press down here and pull, press and pull. You know how they're kind of wrapped sometimes with the leaf? You can make a little, just a little, almost a little ball shape there. Just a little dot. Sometimes you can have a little leaf in the middle, and then you can do your little stem. It's getting a little lost on the black paper, but I'll go a little heavier with the white. So same thing, I'm going to reload my brush just like I did. And you've seen those rose buds, how they have that little greenery around them. Sometimes they have little bits coming down here. The ones that are opened a little bit, sort of the same idea. Who likes to paint florals? Anybody's favorite thing is to paint flowers? They're fun. I like to paint everything, but I do like flowers too. So this guy here, same thing. We're just going to press and pull, press and pull. Put that little blob there. Make a stem. You could add more here. You could have more here. You could have it coming up from the back. All different ways. And you can see how you can put these all together and make a like nice little floral bouquet. These little guys, you could just use little leaves, same strokes over here. And same here, you get these little ones coming out. You could have some of the big leaves and then a few little ones here and there. So much fun. Here we'll add a few to our, well actually we won't. I'll take a picture of this for you so that you can use that as a practice sheet. Let's pull this back. Let's put some more roses on here. You can see me do the roses one more time, and then we'll add a few leaves. And remember, they'd be nice in like a peach color. You know what we will? We'll pull an orange over and see what we can do with that, just to change it up a little bit. Let me pull an orange paint here and see what we can come up with. Whoops, sorry. Oh, and I have a really salmon-y color, which I love. I do love this little, it's a bright salmon. I use that a lot lately. I'm into turquoise and the salmon colors. And we'll find a little place on the palette. And if it's not dark enough, we can always add a little orange to that. Okay, so I think I need a little bit more white. I've got some over here that I'll scoop. Oh, well, that's too pink. Let's get some fresh white. You do need a nice clean white for those little tips on the edges there. And so again, we just load the brush with the salmon color or whatever color you want your flower. Tiny little bit on the edge. And again, the tips aren't going to show up a lot on the edge, but once we start working in the center of the flower, you will see how that works for the leaves. And the darker the color, the better contrast, of course. Yeah, we'll get that little cup in there. You can pull in, like I said, as many as you want. You can have them really opened up. It's a little too far to pull it out there, but you can also make some that are just a little less complicated. So you're going to do your little bowl first, a little center, which again could be a bud by itself, or then just cut in a few leaves here and there. Very simple. That works too, just for a little one. And you can see how you can start putting these all together. And then the little flowers that we did, just a few strokes like this. And then you're going to just let the center dry, but if you're doing it with, let's say, a brown center, you can put that right in. I add a few little dots and doodads to that, and I'll show you that before we end up today. I just want to, let's see, I'm going to do a little salmon one on this background because I think it's going to really pop nice. And you can remember, you can make your petals really frilly if you want, or just simpler. So if you wanted something that really, they were really frilly, you could just wiggle that brush and get a really frilly edge. Or it could be just a little softer. Just grab some paper, just a few colors of paint, and off you go. And I'd love it if you shared some of your practice pieces or some of your finished pieces or some of your works in progress in the comments. And again, any questions, let me know. Text them, message them, put them in the comments. Okay, looks like it's a little glary, so it's a little hard to see. Let me see if I can get it so you cannot have it so glary. But there it is, basic shapes. So for the centers, I simply do this. It's very easy. I just, well, we would paint our yellow in first, our brighter yellow for these guys. You know, you could just brighten that up a little. And then just to add a little pizzazz, I just take my little daughter tool, and you can also just use the end of a brush or the tip of the brush. And I just put some dots around the middle. Just adds a little something, something. These guys, I would just put one little dot in. Something like this, you can see a little better, and we will just, add some little dots. Some of them I go right over the center, some I go right around. And it's just a little something to add. And you can, again, use the chisel edge of your brush if you want to get little lines in those petals. If you wanted to just do something like that, you could. And there it is. I'm going to take some photos of these guys and put them in the comments so you can see them and practice them. And like I said, it's very simple. You just need a few colors, a flat brush, and some time to practice. So I would like to thank you guys for joining me and learning a little bit about the one-stroke painting. So these were just a few flowers. There's lots of things you can do with one-stroke painting. Just takes a little practice, like I said. So practice away, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.